Hello everyone, this is Turd Flinging Monkey, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about the political trichotomy. We're not going to talk about the individualist right, or the absolutist right, or even the communist left. We're going to talk about the moderate right. I'm not really sure what else to call them. They're basically people who are on the right, and they're all about making the case for, freedom and free markets and capitalism and so forth. But then, when push comes to shove, they are completely unwilling to do anything other than talk. So I'm going to be using clips from a video that I watched the other day from somebody who is absolutely in this camp of the moderate right, which that's just what I'm going to call them. Maybe people have other words for them. I'll just call them the moderate right for the purposes of this video. I'm not attacking this person personally. So the fact that I'm using this video and this clip, the only reason why I'm using this clip at all is because I'm actually subscribed to this guy and I actually like his videos. So I don't want anyone to interpret the fact that I'm responding to this particular video as an attack on this individual. I'm going to block out his face, so maybe you can't tell who it is. I don't know. The point is, I'm just responding to his arguments. I'm not attacking him, or I'm not attacking people like him. I know there are more famous examples of people who kind of think and behave in the same way, but I'm just responding to this person because it's the video that inspired this video. So here we go.
One of them wanted me to elaborate more on why I don't like the Civil War talk. And in particular, I got this comment from someone. I used to agree with the part about always taking the higher road than the left, but there's a giant problem with that. It's not a winning tactic. The left is winning because they don't care about civil discourse. They will scream and shout until they get their way, and it's working. It's clearly not an effective strategy to calmly discuss policy or cause an effect with leftists, because they simply do not care. The right is fighting for America's culture while the left is actively working on dismantling it, and they're winning. Normally, I agree with being civil and letting your superior ideas prevail, but this has become an extreme situation. We're so deep into clown world now that the right must take extreme action to swing the pendulum. The right must take extreme action to swing the pendulum back in our favor. This is where all of the Civil War talk is coming from, because we're fucking tired of losing, man. So this is the, Jonah Goldberg writes about this a lot, but this is the moral equivalent of war talking right here, where every fight becomes equivalent to a real war. If you even hold the slightest classically liberal beliefs or modern day conservative principles, I don't see how you can't see this. I don't see how you can't see this as being inherently anti-liberal, liberal in the traditional sense. This is just like a power play almost. What good do you think it is doing to be using Civil War rhetoric? Like, think about what you're justifying now. Okay, this is a civil war, so we can start killing people, right? Oh, no, that's not what I mean by civil war. Don't take it literally, dude. Then why are we using Civil War rhetoric? And this is the point where I get all uppity, because this is asking you to stop thinking. It's asking you to stop using your brain power. It's saying that, it's saying this is literally war, except it's not. But don't question it, or else you just want to lose. You don't want to win. And so now we're merging with full-on Trumpian rhetoric, where it's all about winning. And if you're not going to use our tactics, which we claim as winning, then you're all about losing, and you just want to lose, and you're no longer fighting for what you believe. Apparently, this is illiberal stuff. The whole point of liberalism and the way our Constitution is set up is that it only works when people use facts and reason and being honest.
Machiavelli was a 16th century Florentine political thinker with powerful advice for nice people who don't get very far. His thought pivots around a central, uncomfortable observation that the wicked tend to win, And they do so because they have a huge advantage over the good. They are willing to act with the darkest ingenuity and cunning to further their cause. They are not held back by those rigid opponents of change, principles. They will be prepared to outright lie, twist facts, threaten or get violent. They will also, when the situation demands it, know how to seductively deceive, use charm and honeyed words, bedazzle and distract. And in this way, they conquer the world. It's routinely assumed that a large part of what it means to be a good person is that one acts well. One doesn't only have good ends, one is committed to good means. So, if one wants a more serious world, one needs to win people over through serious argument, not clickbait. If one wants a fairer world, one has to judiciously and gently try to persuade the agents of injustice to surrender willingly, not through intimidation. And if one wants people to be kind, one must show kindness to one's enemies, not ruthlessness. It sounds splendid, but Machiavelli couldn't overlook an incontrovertible problem. It doesn't work. As he looked back over the history of Florence and the Italian states more generally, he observed that nice princes, statesmen and merchants always come unstuck. That's why he wrote the book for which we know him today, The Prince, a short, dazzling manual of advice for well-disposed princes on how not to finish last. And the answer, in short, was to be nice as one wished, but never to be overly devoted to acting nicely, and indeed to know how to borrow, when need be, every single trick employed by the most cynical, dastardly, unscrupulous, and nastiest people who have ever lived.
You know, you can say to hell with the rules, to hell with your liberal values in your constitution. I just want to win. So I'm going to do all the bad stuff my opponent does, because that's what's most important, winning. Not sticking to my ideals, not being honest, not having set standards for myself, just winning. You're exploiting our system for all the freedom it's given you. And just because you don't like how the left exploits that system, you know, I'm not going to see that as a justification for the entirety of the right to start exploiting that as well. This is what I don't get about self-proclaimed conservatives these days, and you see a lot of this on Twitter, where they usually say something along the lines of, you know, you're not a real conservative, or what exactly is it that you're trying to conserve? Or, you know, my favorite, you know, you just want to lose. This is a zero-sum view of politics. You're corrupting all of the things I mentioned in the pursuit of the means you are using to get you to where you purportedly want to be is corrupting everything you claim to hold dear.
Machiavelli knew where our counterproductive obsession with acting nicely originated. The West was brought up on the Christian story of Jesus of Nazareth, the very nice man from Galilee who always treated people well and wound up as the King of Kings and the ruler of eternity. But Machiavelli pointed out one inconvenient detail to this sentimental tale of the triumph of goodness through meekness. From a practical perspective, Jesus' life was an outright disaster. This gentle soul was trampled upon and humiliated, disregarded and mocked. Judged in his lifetime and outside of any divine assistance, he was one of history's greatest losers. The clue to being effective lies in overcoming all vestiges of this story. The Prince was not, as is often thought, a guide to being a tyrant. It's a guide about what nice people should learn from tyrants. It's a book about how to be effective, not just good. It's a book haunted by examples of the impotence of the pure. The admirable prince, and today we might add CEO, political activist or thinker, should learn every lesson from the slickest, most devious operators around. They should know how to scare and intimidate, cajole and bully, entrap and beguile. The good politician needs to learn from the bad one, the earnest entrepreneur from the slick one. We are all ultimately the sum of what we achieve, not what we intend. If we care about wisdom, kindness, seriousness and virtue, but only ever act wisely, kindly, seriously and virtuously, we will, Machiavelli warns us, get nowhere. We need to learn lessons from an unexpected source, those we temperamentally most despise. They have the most to teach us about how to bring about the reality we yearn for, but that they are fighting against. We need weapons of similar grade steel to theirs. Ultimately, we should care more about being effective than about being nobly intentioned. It's not enough to dream well. The true measure is what we achieve. The purpose is to change the world for the better, not reside in the quiet comforts of good intentions and a warm heart. All this Machiavelli knew.
I generally tend to agree that the left, or leftist ideas in the culture are very damaging, but you need to utilize persuasion. And please don't tell me that I'm supposed to excuse everything damaging about Trump's cult of personality and the culture of his rhetoric, or just drop everything I believe because the left is so bad, or because the left does it too. I mean, do the ideas you espouse matter when you're corrupting the things you supposedly care about? Like if you're one of the people I'm talking about, how exactly do you get back to some sort of traditional conservative culture in this country when you're sick and tired of seeing the left dominate, all aspects of the culture? How do you expect to get back to some sort of decent society when you're out there promoting a guy who literally doesn't care about any of that? He will bully people, he will call people petty names, say the dumbest things on Twitter, and we're just supposed to support that in the hopes that we're supposed to win the culture back somehow? Like, that's the idea here? Does the culture miraculously become more decent and honest by promoting a man who lies on a near daily basis?
He disturbs us for good reason, because he probes us where we are at our most self-serving. We tell ourselves we didn't get there because we're a little too pure, good and kind. Machiavelli bracingly informs us we are stuck because we have been too short-sighted to learn from those who really know, our enemies.
Does anyone actually believe in the Constitution anymore? Or do they only believe in it when it allows Trump to get his way? This is the kind of thinking that just corrupts the culture, our whole political system. And the Republican Party is now, there is a major constituency that finds this rhetoric favorable to their ears. And I don't know what's going to happen.
I want you to imagine it's the late 1700s, and the founding fathers are, they're meeting and they're talking about how King George just won't listen to them. They've sent letters, they've petitioned the crown, they've done all these things. I mean, it's documented in the Declaration of Independence what the founding fathers attempted to do within the system in order to secure their freedom and liberty, and King George told them to go fuck themselves, in more or less words. And after years, decades, I'm not 100% sure, they decided, you know what, King George is obviously not listening. We're going to have to do something else, and they declared their independence. That's where the American Constitution came from. That's where America came from. It came from a war of independence from England. I know you know this, but do you understand the ramifications of this? Can you imagine the founding fathers are talking about possibly declaring their independence from Britain, and then a bunch of people are in the room like, oh guys, what? That's not helpful. It's not helpful, you guys. We can't talk like this. We need to try harder and make the case. If we can't make the case, well then we're just as bad as them. We can't talk like this, you guys. It's not principled. It's not the liberal thing to do. We need to talk more. Okay, so that you talk more and you fail, and then what? Well, we got to make the case. We got to keep making the case. Okay, so I want you to imagine, I'm sure these people were there. I'm sure there are people in the 1700s with this same mentality who, under no circumstances did they want to declare independence. Under no circumstances did they want to secede from Britain and have a revolutionary war. I'm sure they were like 100% against it all the way to the bitter end until they won. And then they were like, oh, good job, everyone. We did it. We defeated the British. We won. Hooray. Now let's build this great country full of freedom and liberty. Oh, but what about all that? Oh, if we use violence, then we can't achieve good ends through bad means. Yeah, you're an idiot. There's no other way to put it. In fact, like, if you think about what defines, classical liberalism, what were the founding watershed moments that created the opportunity for classical liberalism to exist? I would say there are two that just immediately spring to mind. One, of course, is the Revolutionary War, which led directly to the independence of the United States and the creation of the Constitution. But if you want to go back even farther, we could talk about the Magna Carta. What is the Magna Carta? It's basically an early version of the Constitution in England. You could say it's like a form, like a prototype. And essentially, it limited the powers of the king, and it gave the people, more or less the aristocracy, but it was the 12th century, so what do you want? But more or less, it limited the power of the crown, and it left the people more free. Now, we already established that the Revolutionary War it has the word war in it. That should tell you something. It wasn't brought about through argumentation and discussion and making the case. And no, we fought a war. We shot British soldiers until the king basically conceded that he lost, and then we declared our independence as a nation. And then we fought the British again in the War of 1812, and we beat them again. And only after 2 wars did Britain say, oh, okay, well, all right, we're done. You can go ahead and keep America. But no, we had to fight not just 1 war, 2 wars. But what about the Magna Carta? Now, I'm reading from Wikipedia. You can say whatever you want about that, but I'm just an easily referenceable resource. So, from the Wikipedia entry of Magna Carta. Magna Carta Liberantum, medieval Latin for the Great Charter of the Liberties, commonly called Magna Carta, is a charter of rights agreed to by King John of England at Runnymede near Windsor on June 15th, 1215. First drafted by the Archbishop of Canterbury to make peace between the unpopular king and a group of rebel barons. It promised the protection of church rights, protection for the barons from illegal imprisonment, access to swift justice, and limitations on feudal payments to the crown. To be implemented through a council of 25 barons, neither side stood behind their commitments, and the charter was annulled by Pope Innocent III, leading to the First Barons' War. After John's death, the regency government of his young son, Henry III, reissued the document in 1216, stripped of some of its more radical content in an unsuccessful bid to build potential support for their cause. At the end of the war in 1217, it formed part of the peace treaty agreed at Lambeth, where the document acquired the name Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, the U.S. Constitution, came about as direct consequences of a war. Not making the case, not arguing. No, that's not how shit works. That is not how shit works. And you want to know why? Do you want to know why you can't just make the case? Do you want to know why sometimes you actually, just like the Founding Fathers said, you have to refresh the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants? It's because tyrants don't give the faintest of shits about your principles. Now, the usual response from these people, other than, oh, that's not helpful, that's going to cost us votes, don't talk like that, that fuels the left, you guys are retarded. You guys are only thinking in terms of the next election. And that's why you're fucked and America's fucked and we're all fucked. Because everyone's like worried about, oh, we got to win one more election, as if that's going to change anything. If you look at the trend of America, it's going down. It's not turning around. We're only shifting further and further to the left. If you don't want to see America fail, there's going to have to be some changes. And those changes aren't going to come through, I don't even know what, you don't obviously have a plan. Your plan is just to keep making the case as the country slips further to the left and closer to communism. Just keep making the case. Never do anything. Oh, they took your guns away. Well, don't do anything, everyone. Yeah, they took our guns away and they violated the Constitution. Whatever. It's okay. We can't talk like that, everyone. We gotta keep on keeping on. Yep. Unfortunately, if you understand history, you understand why that's fucking retarded. That is, not only doesn't work, it has never worked. It has only led to the destruction of the people trying to fight for a better world every single time. It could never end in anything other than failure. But this is the big problem. So, talking about the inevitability of a civil war or a balkanization and a power grab, that will happen. The government is going to run out of money very soon. Like, within our lifetimes, the government's going to run out of money. When the government runs out of money, there's going to be, you can forget about your civil liberties. The government is just going to be struggling for its very survival. And a lot of the people in the military and the police, they're not going to get paid, and they're just going to, like, be out for themselves. I mean, like, who's to say what's going to happen? But if you're just going to sit there on your ass and just let whatever happens, and accept whoever wins as your new overlords, okay, that's your plan, okay, fine. But smart people who care about freedom and liberty and don't just talk about it, they need to start thinking about what are they going to do to remain free. Whether that means, I don't know, crazy things like defending your freedom, gasp. Don't do that. That's crazy talk. Don't defend your freedom. Just, let the government take your liberties away and just shake your fist into the air. I mean, look at the UK. The people voted for Brexit. The government said, nah, completely ignored their vote, sabotaged the process. Brexit isn't happening. Just so you know, it doesn't matter what the people said. They don't care. In fact, give me your knives. You can't have knives anymore. Sharp sticks, gardening tools, nope, they all gotta go. What are you gonna do about it? Oh, we're gonna protest? The government doesn't fucking care. They're not listening to you. They're not accountable to you. A protest is only a way to communicate to a government how displeased you are. But if you're not gonna do anything, they don't fucking care. Go fucking protest. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, go march. Fucking idiots. Now, people on the moderate right, they will misconstrue what I'm saying as some kind of advocacy for rebellion or civil war. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what are you doing to prepare for the inevitable civil war? When they come for your freedom, which they are every day, and they're winning, by the way, we are losing our freedoms and liberties every single day, and the tide is in their favor. Under no circumstances is the right going to have a resurgence. Where? Where are the next right-wing voters going to come from? The native population isn't having children. There's no countries immigrating to America that will vote for the right. The left has all the momentum. They're the only ones having kids, and they can import as many voters as they need to get their agenda through. The right has no future. Not at this current pace. If all things remain equal, the left wins. Period. And when the left has the votes, they will take your guns. They will, we already have enough suppression of free speech. It's just going to get worse. And you know what's hilarious? I think these classical liberals are going to do exactly what, look at the UK. Look what the classical liberals in the UK are doing. They're not doing shit. Nor will they do shit. And when the UK goes under, they'll just be like, oh, this is very bad. Oh, this isn't what I wanted. Oh, and they won't do anything. They'll go silently into the slaughterhouse like good little sheep. If they sincerely believe that we don't need to fight for our freedom, that we can just have a conversation and make the case, and the King Georges and the King Henrys and all the tyrants of history are just going to listen to us because we made such a powerful case. If that's what you think, I don't know what to tell you. You're an idiot. You have no concept of history or reality or literally anything. You're just a pussy and a coward. You're afraid to fight for something. You want to argue for it, but then when it's time to actually defend it, you're a giant pussy. And that's fine. Go be a giant pussy. I don't really have much else to say. The moderate right are pussies. What do you want? That's really what it all boils down to. They're pussies and cowards. And pussies and cowards existed in the time of the Founding Fathers. There's some choice quotes that the Founding Fathers had for the pussies and cowards that existed in the 1700s. Cut from the same cloth as the pussies and cowards that exist today. But at the end of the day, that's all they are, pussies and cowards. And they'll never be anything other than pussies and cowards. And my only thing to say to them is, all right, look, I get it. You're a pussy and a coward, and you don't want to defend your rights or your freedoms. Okay. Get out of the way. You're clearly not going to lead or follow, so get out of the way. And my advice to people who aren't in the moderate right is do not turn your back on the moderate right. They will stab you in the back. They will sell you out to the left. They are the worm tongues of the right, because their principles are all that matter to them. And by fighting for your freedom, you're violating their principles somehow, and they will sell you out. So beware of the moderate right, and do not turn your back on them, and do not trust them. This is Turd Flinging Monkey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.